Welcome back, everyone, to the LEC ahead of BDS versus SK Gaming. Two teams with very different approaches to their off-season. SK, in fact, is the only team that missed playoffs but did not make any changes. Febiven, that means they're still with Gen X, Gilius, Sertuss, Jezu, and Treatz. Do you think that's the right decision?
If that's the right
That's a hard
decision,
question.
that's a really hard question. I mean, they probably believe in their players and they probably should have a lot of fun together and they should be learning, because if they're going downhill from what they've showed, then it's not going to be good. And I mean, it looks like they're having fun together. And obviously there are 5 players that kind of really want to prove themselves, because they need to surprise us now, because else it's going to be too late, I think.
And I think it makes sense when you think of 2021, especially given the fact that they made changes between spring and summer, and it didn't work that well for them, that they would change the approach coming into this year, because it felt like they were really finding their footing towards the end of spring this year. So unlike other teams who made changes, maybe they can just keep on going with what they were trying to build by the end of spring.
Yeah, going upwards from that momentum. And Febiven, you were like, if they're going to keep going like they did, it's not good. I can see why you would say that if you see a lot of the games, but as Laure said, they did have a good stint by the end of the season. Do you think that runs into that decision? And how do you rate these players? And specifically Sertuss maybe in the mid lane, who is not that storied of a player yet.
Yeah, I mean, when a team wins in the end, right? Like, you can have 10 losses in a row and then you can win the last 8, right? But it doesn't, like, you're still 8-10 and you're like not in the playoffs, you know? So it's like, for me, you really want to shine and you want to get to playoffs and you want to be able to get, or like be one of the best teams in the league, that you can actually go to the international events and win the splits, you know? I'm not quite convinced about the overall player skill in that team, so I'm a little bit concerned. However, you never know, right? You never know. Maybe other teams start slumping and they're like really motivated because they're rookies and they feel that they need to perform, else they're just out. So it's...
Yeah, and as you said, honestly, they may not be the best players in the league when you think about the competition there is elsewhere. But I think it just depends on team atmosphere and how they can get along with each other. And again, the game is much different from spring, so you never know what can be coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have a lot of question marks, and it's hard to kind of predict how they are going to play. But on the other side, Team BDS made 2 changes to their lineup, and it didn't come as a surprise after what Grabsa had to say in PGL at the end of last season. Let's take a look back. Oh, so that's actually very exciting, thinking about the possibilities. But let's talk a bit about BDS. Grabs, for you, a huge shift in your career, going to this project, which is so different from the project you worked on with G2 for so long as well. How do you look back generally on the first season?
If you would have asked me after week 6, the answer would be different. I think after week 6, I was pretty satisfied, because we were on a 5-game losing streak, but watching these games, every single one we could have won.
Yeah.
Like, I think back of the Mad Lions game where we outraged them and we suddenly have to engage. We lost 2 games with Erdote with Dragon Soul, which also can be wins, of course. The last 2 weeks were really, how do I say it in English?
Difficult?
Deflating, I guess.
Yeah.
Not because of the games. Like, I don't care as much on stage, but I think the way my players reacted to being out of playoffs was something that I had to like address with Duffman a lot in scrims. I think we wasted 2 weeks of time, and I think you kind of fought this as a young team. I say it not publicly because I was way harsher to them anyways. Like, they know there's no secret there. So I really hope that they understand now what is needed as a pro player, or like an LEC player, to actually improve. Because I think, we just didn't do ourselves favors the last 2 weeks.
Well, Grabs wasn't happy, citing attitude problems, frankly, there, right? And the way they approached that, Laure, which now bringing in Agresivoo and Erdote from their academy roster, is they went to Korea and they tested everyone.
Like everybody during the offseason, everyone was in Korea. It was amazing. But unlike other teams, BDS brought both the Academy and the LEC lineup, which is strange. But they kept on swapping players during scrims to see what would fit best. So they knew change was coming. It was just a matter of knowing where and in which lane. I don't think it comes as a surprise that Adam went back to the LFL. Agresivoo is subbed in. I think he's going to bring a bit more stability, maybe, to the lineup, even though in terms of skill, I don't think he's much different from what Adam could show. And on the bot lane, I just think it comes down to Erdote and xMatty having a good synergy and what they can build from that.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Febiven? The fact that they took both the teams to Korea and then just looked at who had the best, not necessarily, I guess, raw skill, but attitude, probably.
I think that's actually very respectable. I don't think any org has ever done that before. Taking their main roster and their academy roster to Korea to practice. I think that's very well done by the management, I think, or whoever. Like, that shows that they want to actually, they have to change something, and they actually want to play to win, because else you don't do that. So it's, yeah, respect to them, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was hard for fans, I guess, to get excited about BDS at some points in the spring split, and I agree with you. Super respectable and a great way to do it. Laure, what do you think about how it turned out? We, of course, have 3 Polish players now, flanking Cinkrof once again, and Erdote and Agresivoo.
And I think it's really cool for Cinkrof, because I think he was responsible for what the team was able to showcase, especially in the early game in terms of communication. So now, I mean, they went from being the French team to the Polish team, honestly, when you look at the players. But honestly, giving time for these rookies to grow and experience the LEC, I think that's the right call for an org that's actually fairly recent in the LEC. That is the moment when you want to try something like this.
Yes, and we'll see if it pays off for SK and BDS as we head over to our casters and a crowd. Happy birthday to Medic. Happy birthday to Medic. Happy birthday,
dear Medic.
It was Shox's birthday yesterday, so happy
birthday to you.
It was a little close to like happy birthday, Mr. President. It's a little close there. But anyway, we are here for game 2. BDS versus
Medic,
SK
the sprightly
Gaming.
age of 23.
23 today. Isn't that great?
He just finished medical school and then decided, that's not for me. I don't want to help people. I want to cast video games. That's what I want to do.
I want to have my co-caster not get my jokes about tractors.
Why? Audience, you have no idea the things that Medic comes to me with. He, this morning, said to me, like, have you ever wondered that if you add a skyscraper onto the world, that it doesn't actually add more mass onto the world?
Doesn't that blow your mind? It's like we build this huge thing and the world doesn't get any heavier.
Yeah, that's not that weird.
It's so cool, though.
Yes. Again, this is what I have to live with.
It does make me think, in League of Legends, where are all the items coming from? Because we know Boris sells them, but who's making them?
Oh, my word.
Is there some sort of forge?
These are not the philosophical debates that I want ahead of a League of Legends game. Okay?
Sure.
I want to think about draft.
Okay.
And I want to think about storylines and narrative.
I mean, that was a storyline. It's just a story about where the items come from.
Well, let's think about the story of these teams.
Let's do it.
Because SK, they made no changes. They decided that we're going to stick with our roster. We believe in the process, as many teams have said before. And they want to invest in the talent that they've accrued. And they want to try and build upon what they have. And I think that we saw glimmers of greatness from SK at times towards the end of the season. I remember that Orianna shockwave from Sertuss that we replayed a bunch of times. Yeah, I'm curious as to how their offseason went in terms of what they were able to do, how they developed. And like for SK, this will be a big test because across the pond, BDS have made significant changes. They're the opposite. They've changed a lot about this roster in an attempt to try and rebuild and kind of get a better footing. And the analyst desk has set up for us a lot of context about behind why these changes have happened and the logic. So I'm really curious. I'm really excited. Cinkrof is a player we had our eyes on a lot last split because of his like just intelligence was something we gave him a lot of credit for in terms of his early pathing, his efficiencies, his ability to actually find early ganks as well. Like he was a very efficient and very effective early game jungler. Unfortunately, BDS rather, they could get early leads, but they could actually never think of all the games that they had basically won and then lost. There was one brutal one against XL that I seem to remember, and like it happened a couple times for BDS where it felt like they were so close and then they just threw it all away. So we'll see if they've been able to fix any of those issues with this new roster and new lineup. But these are the games that matter against these two teams when they're fighting for similar positions. But as always, a bit of music, a bit of charm, a bit of calm before the storm as we're about to head into draft.
And as we jump on into the draft, I think the question becomes, will we see a continuation of what we saw in game 1, or will we see a little bit of change between these two teams? SK, of course, had the whole of the offseason to develop their synergies, to understand the patch, to work out how they were going to play. And a lot of the time when we see teams remain unchanged between patches, between split, they actually come out very strong at the start of the next season. For SK, if you can do that, if you can get 5-6 wins in the first few weeks, you actually put yourself in a very strong position to make it to playoffs.
Well, again, like expectations-wise, both of these teams are just fighting for playoffs. They both failed to qualify last split, so if you're thinking about what are your next-term goals, at the very least you want to try and work towards getting that top 6. And these are the teams that are often your direct competitors. Having the head-to-head over them at the end of the regular season is massive in terms of all those tiebreaker situations. So these are the games that you definitely want to be winning. So both teams already off to a very important game to start off their season. You can see a lot of AD carry bans. I really wanted to talk about this Kalista because Jezu, for those that don't know, Jezu Treatz, actually well known for Kalista Jarvan bot lane. This was a bot lane that they actually found a lot of success on in the past, and I was expecting that with the rise of Kalista, this to be something that they would immediately go for, and BDS showcasing that respect. They do not want to hand that one over, but Ezreal also being taken away from xMatty Lucian as well. That's 5 AD carry bans. So how deep are we going to go? Are we going to return to Jinx Felios meta with that Tahm Genj? I mean, assuming it's locked in, I really think this is going to be a Jinx. But let's wait and see. A lot of strong champions. Remember, Talia, Viego, Ahri, all very prominent, very impactful meta champions that are still up and available.
And that is the Viego locked in for SK. Gilius will be piloting that. Wukong, the other S-tier jungler, or the other jungler we see most commonly, already banned away by SK. So BDS here have a few different options. Do you go down towards that AD carry, get yourself something you have priority on, and team it up alongside a jungler? Zhao, the second time of the day that we're going to see that pick.
Another jungler that Cinkrof also played a lot during last split. As we saw, works very well with champions that do have priority. We didn't really see a gank from Ahri last game. I wonder if we'll get to see a little bit more action in this early game, as now BDS have a lot of options. Like, the jungle has been matched. You can kind of go any direction that you want. You can lock in your AD carry if you want to. You could lock in the Ahri. Ahri plus Xin is a very solid mid lane, mid jungle. They could also go LeBlanc. NUCLEARINT was well known for that in the past. And it's going to be the Miss Fortune. Okay, so a champion that I think around the world we haven't really been seeing a lot. I'm going to very quickly have a look back at it. Yeah, so over in the LCK we haven't really seen any MF yet, and over in the LPL we have not seen any Miss Fortune. So bit of a specific pick here for xMatty. Obviously very well known for its team fighting prowess. Can be quite dominant in lane depending on what support it's paired up alongside. But yeah, a pretty unique champion across the world.
Yeah, so you say something that we really haven't seen too much of in the other regions so far, but does give you that lane pressure. Kai'Sa matched here by SK. We've seen that a few places alongside the Nautilus. A very strong combination down towards that bottom side. It's not too strange to see the move away from Enchanters, because although Enchanters are still strong, Nautilus, Leona, these engaged champs can still do a lot of work if they're put in the right matchups. And something like the MF, who is relatively low mobility, although she gets some extra movement speed from her strut, can be caught out by a Kai'Sa and a Nautilus. Alongside that though, Renata locked in for Erdote down towards this bottom side, gives that MF just a little bit more safety when SK try and engage onto her.
I like what BDS have drafted so far, because you look at SK and you've got Nautilus, Kai'Sa, very prominent dive duo. Very good at, you know, diving into the backline, getting to the things. Yes, dive. You're diving off the top of a board, you do a flip, you try and jump into the pool, and you're like, wow, I've made an impressive dive. The problem is Renata, the equivalent metaphor would be that she freezes the ice and then you hit a wall.
Concrete,
yeah, and you have an unpleasant fall. You trying to run into a Miss Fortune ultimate or a Renata ultimate is a very difficult thing to do, and then the Xin ultimate to add on top of that. So like, there's already a lot of durability and a lot of counter engage on the side of BDS, and I think that we've seen, especially in the LEC last split, Renata is kind of the go-to answer for Nautilus. The matchup during the laning phase can be very good, and I think the Team BDS have themselves a strong 2v2 for the laning phase as well. They're now focusing on removing some of the, well, safer and more aggressive, with Jace and Gangplank being removed from the top lane. Does suggest to me that they could be looking for something like an Ornn for themselves, perhaps a tank, and it does seem to be the meta is favored towards tanks, but there are still top laners that can cause them a lot of problems. And with the Gwen removal, this to me does really open up that one pick, but remember the Kayle is still up and available as well.
Instead, currently hovering over the Gnar, Agresivoo looking to bring that out in his first game on the LEC stage. Has been through the ERLs a lot, of course, Agresivoo. Been around for a lot of years as well, started playing all the way back in 2015, but at the ripe old age of 22, basically over the hill in esports terms, he's going to make his debut appearance here.
So you know we see a lot of Gnar in pro play.
Yeah.
Do you want to know a fun Gnar fact?
Hit me.
When he's playing against Garen, he likes to imitate what other champions say, and instead when Darren says Demacia, he says Demaglio, and it's one of the cutest and best things in League of Legends. In any case, let's have a look at what SK are rounding out their draft with.
No
the Camille
Garen here.
is a very common answer into the Gnar, does very well in the matchup, struggles a little bit early, but once she gets a few levels under her belt, decimates on a side lane, and it kind of ties back into this dive composition. Wow, okay, we'll get to that in a second, but we talked about dive from SK. You have Camille diving in, Ahri diving in. Yeah, there's just a lot of dive, and I think that while they have committed to the strategy, I am a little bit concerned when you are diving into this Miss Fortune Renata duo because of their ability to counter engage, and then also if you're coming into a Gnar, that just makes his life easier thanks to his ultimate. Now the Akali is definitely much more of a skill matchup, but when I look across this draft, this is a great Akali draft. The thing that you're most concerned about is that Nautilus, because the ultimate can be super obnoxious for you, but when I think about champions that Akali is afraid of, usually it's things that can either outduel her, which aren't that many things, but when you kind of look across this draft, she can pretty much solo kill everyone. And remember that a bunch of damage items were buffed as well on 12-1, which gives her a little bit more agency as well. So I'm excited to see the return of Kali. I hope we get to see a little bit more, but it is also a really difficult pick to execute, especially in the teamfight focused meta. And I'm expecting a lot of teamfights to be very prevalent in this game as well. So yeah, the Akali pick super exciting, and NUCLEARINT definitely a player we'll be keeping our eyes on throughout the rest of the split.
I have to see how Team BDS are able to manage around these team fights as Swiftfoot grabs fist bump, have a little chat as they walk down the tunnel and we get ready to get on into the game. It does look like the lobby has been remade, so I believe we'll be going through picks and bans once again. Obviously want the players to be as comfortable as possible going into their first games on the stage in a long, long time, or at least in front of fans in a long time.
Yeah, a lot of these players. It was so strange listening to Elio talk about how he hasn't actually played in front of an LEC crowd before. Like, man, we've been casting, what, like 6+ years now?
4 years on the LEC for me.
Okay, well, yeah, it's been a while.
I'm not as old as you are, then.
No, that's true. But it's kind of crazy to think that we've had players who've literally never experienced a lot of things that we've kind of had from back in the day. And yeah, for some of these players, it will be their rookie split, so it will be their first time performing in front of a crowd, and it can be both a very good thing and a bad thing. Listening to Elio talk about how when everyone cheered when he was first blooded, something that players often don't quite expect and something you have to get used to, but then also that feeling of adrenaline you can get from playing in what feels like a super serious environment. Everyone is really locked in, everyone is try hard, everyone is focused on the task at hand. It definitely changes the way that you approach the game. Sometimes it does make competitive a little bit slower, unless your name is Caps, in which case it makes everything much faster and there's a lot more violence on the Rift. So definitely something to look forward to later in the day. As we mentioned, the draft is just being very quickly remade, and once it's ready, we will be jumping into game.
Yeah, just the issue with switching around some of the champions, so obviously want the players to be playing who they should be playing. Don't really want to see a Viego AD carry, although that could be an interesting change to the meta that it's currently developing here in the LEC. But let's talk a little bit more about these drafts. I do agree with you about SK having sort of an all-in dive. They are looking to get onto that backline. What I like about the Camille and the Ahri is they have a little bit more flexibility in horizontal movement. So if you're trying to chase someone down and a Renata ultimate comes out, Ahri dashes to the side, Camille ward dashes to the side, and you can get away from that initial ultimate, meaning you can still access the backline without just chasing straight down on a straight line.
Yeah, I will say SK do just have a lot of mobility at their disposal. Camille and Ahri, just in isolation, are hyper-mobile champions thanks to the E and the ultimate. Viego can use his ultimate to dive over walls, and then he also gets all that bonus movement speed from his E. And when you contrast that to what BDS have, they kind of actually have a lot of stationary targets. MF needs to stand still to throw out her ultimate. Renata doesn't really have any dashes at her disposal.
Wait, so is that Bayern Munich fan in the audience? They realize this is League of Legends? So
football references is a very difficult thing for me, Nick.
Well, it's just like, you know, everyone here with the Jezu fans, and then we just have this Bayern Munich guy in the middle. Obviously, credit for supporting your team, but maybe you want to go to a footy match instead.
Wow.
The Strikers game came out recently. It's the Mario Strikers. Maybe there's going to be esports of that.
Okay.
Could be cool. Yeah, I went off on one. I'll admit, Eddie, I led you down a dead end. I kind of messed you on this one.
Okay.
Yeah, go back to your talk about League of Legends stuff. Jerseys, yeah.
Jerseys.
I'm just surprised to see a Bayern Munich fan in the wild.
Okay.
You know? There's dozens of them.
There are dozens of them. See, now that's funny. Yeah. You got there. Just took you a minute.
It takes me a while to get it.
The draft is just about ready, everyone. We will be jumping into game very shortly. Thank you very much for bearing with us. Day one, you know, it happens. Fans are excited, players are excited, Medic and I are always excited. There's not a day where we're not excited, except for when there is no League of Legends, because obviously League of Legends only consumes our lives.
But that doesn't happen anymore. You know, LEC, LCS, LCK, LPL, LFL, NLC.
Wow.
CBLOL, LLA.
You ingest a lot of content.
I'm just saying there is always League of Legends happening. I don't have to watch it, but I'm still excited because I know it's happening.
That's fair. Yeah. You've found a way to never not be excited, and I respect that, Medic.
Yep.
Do you know, some people don't believe us when we say we're excited.
Really?
I know, it's preposterous, isn't it?
It's just absurd to me.
What is there not to be excited about?
Exactly.
Everything's exciting.
The crowd's excited here as well.
I'm excited.
As you can hear.
Yep.
Crowd goes wild.
Yeah.
There we go. That's picked up on it in the end.
That is that's always a fear, you know, when you make a shout out to the crowd and they're just not listening, and you just get no fan engagement.
I have that with you though, so.
Yeah, I mean, you're a difficult man to listen to.
That's true.
What can I say?
It is.
Anyway, I see players on the Rift, which means that we're guaranteed to get on the Rift in just a second. So without further ado, let's get onto the Rift.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, enough nonsense from us, Medic. It's been too long, man.
Yeah, it has.
We haven't figured out how to be entertaining, but we'll get it back. They'll come. Don't worry. Let's have a look at this early game. I love talking about wards. It's my favorite pastime. You can see a ward invested here. Super common. Happens all the time. Mainly just to get information if there is anything cheeky. Our observers also highlighted this ward here. This is basically to cover for any potential delayed invade. And basically it's just early information. You'll also see the sweepers then swapped out. So you've got this one over here and you've got this one over here. And basically I'm just trying to draw on the screen as much as possible to distract you as our observers then hide our scoreboard, which meant that I just have the circles on my screen. So it does look like Cinkrof will be starting on the bot side of the map, pathing up towards top. Jungle pathing. Junglers have a lot of options. So sometimes it's not always as stock standard as bot side clear into top side clear. Sometimes you do blue into red into returning back up towards the top side of the map. But the expectations are that I would imagine that xMatty and Erdote have the push. So I'm a little surprised that Cinkrof wouldn't want to path towards bot. But early levels, I do expect Gnar to have the push. So perhaps he just wants to cover for Agresivoo in the early laning phase. But we'll keep track of the junglers, see what they're up to, see what their plans are as they move around the camps. Yeah,
of course, Gilius pathing down towards this bottom side does give him an opportunity to try and get xMatty and Erdote caught out early on in the game. The MF actually walking back there, just, okay, so that's a common ward if you place it just on the corner of a triangular rock on that wall. You can get it across the wall into that bush, which gives xMatty a little bit of vision. Not as much as perhaps you'd like, but he doesn't want to leave the lane too much. He doesn't want to walk too far up in case Gilius was looking for a gank. Just going, could have gone red down towards that bottom side, look for a level 2 gank. And it's not where he is right now. So the ward is down, but won't give BDS as much vision as they'd like.
Just having a look across the runes as well, seeing if we're seeing anything too crazy. The comment coming out from xMatty, it's kind of as you expect. It's very much more of the poke builds. You can see as well, Cinkrof is pathing up towards top, so Agresivoo does have that push, which he's going to look to leverage to be able to secure that first crab. The biggest concern for BDS is the fact that Sertuss will also have the push on this Ahri, and this bot wave is getting pushed in, and there is a window here where Sertuss could roam towards bot, match up with Gilius, and they could look for an early gank if they wanted to. Of course, that ward is there to provide some protection, but even if they're able to get a flash out of this bot lane, it could be absolutely massive in terms of setting expectations, but maybe they don't want to. Maybe they're a little too worried about Kai'Sa in the early game. They don't want to try and force anything, especially with this pretty stacked wave.
You can see Sertuss already moving. Minion Dematerializer used by him as well to clear out that lane just a little bit quicker. He's now sort of throwing his nose into that bottom side river. Will use the Squire's Boom, spots Erdote, spots xMatty, and the smart move by xMatty and Erdote to come up here and get the Scuttle Crab.
Yeah, so I really like this play a lot. It's a good answer, and now Genex is starting to trade with Agresivoo because he realizes that there's going to be a bit of a fight towards this crab up towards the top river. Gilius, so he's just going to fly towards it, and Cinkrof not going to contest. Okay, so he's just going to give this one up. I'm a little surprised, but it does make sense with the bounce coming back through for Genax, and with having no pressure in mid. Cinkrof is making the call that, you know what, with Akali, I can't really fight this in the early game, so I don't want to run the risk. They're just going to be happy with the fact that they did get a crab, and BDS using their prio bot side of the map in order to, at the very least, get something. So that will accrue in a small CS advantage. The gold, though, for now, stays exactly the same.
And it does. And only 4 minutes in, it's not too surprising. Things have been a bit slow. You can see both the junglers backing away, get themselves the double longsword. Expect to see Gore Drinker on the side of Cinkrof and Divine Sundra for Gilius on this Viego. Tends to be where their build paths do end up. xMatty trying to stack his tier down towards the bottom side. Has a slight CS lead. As you said, the pressure from Renata MF is pretty strong, especially with that Arcane Comet. Gives you a little bit more harass in the lane. And so Jezu and Treatz just giving them the respect that they deserve, especially now knowing Gilius is on the top side and Cinkrof is probably down towards this bottom side of the map.
And as we kind of expect this early game to be a little bit slower, want to reintroduce you to some of the new additions to BDS. For those that don't know, they largely came up from the LFL. They have been playing for quite a while. They have a number of EU Masters games. They have a number of ERL titles as well. So like within the ERL scene, they are very well known. Beginning of this year, both of them did join the BDS Academy team, which was able to find mixed success within the LFL and at EU Masters. But I think many had their eyes and wondered what the opportunities would come from these players, because the LFL, probably the most stacked DRL league that we have right now. Teams like K-Corp, LDLC, BDS Academy, Miss Academy, there's a lot of strong teams down there. And so kind of the expectations are, it's only kind of a matter of time until those players make their way up. And we've got 2 new additions here from Agresivoo and Erdote. And I'm curious as to how they'll be able to compete, because it's very different, right? Whenever you speak to pros, the level and the execution and the expectations. I hear the boos. Yeah, unfortunately we do have a pause, but the expectation is very different at the LEC level. So, oh, it's us. Hello.
Hi. Fancy seeing you here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, as well.
Oh, I see.
Still feels weird to me, I'll be honest. It still feels odd to me.
Really? This is just a normal thing for me. I walk into a room.
You applaud yourself as you go into the room.
I mean, I'm the only one doing it. You know what I mean? I've got to amp myself up. You know what I mean?
You deserve to be amped up. You're a cool dude, man.
Dick, man.
Cool dude.
Not all of us get a birthday every day. So we are on a brief pause.
There we are.
We will give you more information when we have more information. But unfortunately, this now means we need to fill.
It does mean that.
It did not go well.
Part of the problem is not much has happened in this game. We kind of talked about how the compositions are going to play into each other, but when you look at it, early game lead for the MF in the bot lane, kind of to be expected. Top lane's relatively even. Mid lane's relatively even. Zhao is slightly behind. Like, that's kind of where we are in terms of game state, and until we see a Dragon or a Rift Herald play, I don't really expect that to accelerate any further.
Okay, do you want to play a game then?
Let's do it, man.
Okay. Crowd, you can play as well. All right, this is an old age song, okay?
What? We're not singing.
No, we are. Are you ready?
Why are we singing?
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, pat your head.
Oh, guys!
Got him.
What is this?
They were like, how do I make a sound patting my head? I was like, haha, that's the trick. If
wait, no. Put the side back up.
Is it appropriate?
If Shox follows me on Insta, I will do 30 push-ups at Tosh K4.
In front of the Baron.
In front of the Baron.
Well, that's up to Shox. We can't make that decision for her.
Very true. Thankfully, we're getting back into the game.
Whoa, good. We don't have to fill anymore.
You sung a song, like a children's song.
They had fun.
It's true, you did. We did have fun. That's true.
I had other games prepared, so if there's another pause, don't worry.
We're going to do Simon Says?
No, maybe.
Ooh.
Things to look forward to. Right, once again, having a quick look at the map state, you can see that some resets have come through. The lethality build is the direction that xMatty is heading in on this Miss Fortune, but everything else looks pretty stock standard. The Sheen also being picked up for Genax, and the level 6 will give him a little bit more trading tools, and NUCLEARINT hitting that level 6 mark as well will be pretty significant in terms of his ability to trade. Normally, Akali, once she has this item, plus level 6 is when she has kill threat. And this is where Sertuss has to be really careful. If he ever uses his charm, there's a very big window where Akali can get super aggressive. But that charm can, of course, still be a massive nuisance. But I'm be keeping my eyes on these mid laners and where they try to move, because right now Sertuss has the push, which means that he's moving into the bot river. Gilius will contest the crab. Erdote and xMatty looking for a bit of a trade, but I mean, it will be an advantage for them. Not much else going to come off the back of it.
And you can see Treatz was moving up towards the bottom side jungle as well to try and make sure that Gilius could secure that scuttle grab, just giving him that little bit extra safety, which meant that Jezu was then by himself for a brief moment in that bottom lane, allowing xMatty and Erdote to put a little bit more damage down, but still, it is the scuttle crab secured for Gilius. He's only level 5 on his way to level 6. Doesn't really have any camps on this side of the map though, and he's spending a lot of time around here. Cinkrof is about to secure his Gromp. I wonder if that would tick him over to 6 as Treatz steps forward, handshake back, Gilius coming in, Erdote has to flash, and will escape from the dredge line.
Good flash, but also good setup from SK. They leveraged their mid-prior very well, moved into the river, took control of the crab, and invested a lot of control wards to deny as much vision as possible from BDS, made it harder for Cinkrof to try and counter. This will give Gilius the first Drake of the game, which, funnily enough, is not a common occurrence really across the world. Dragon is often just abandoned in favor of making sure that you get that first Herald, and SK, they will be forced to reset here, which means that BDS can actually make their way towards the Herald. Let's have a look if they actually contest this objective. Cinkrof already making his way up. Agresivoo does have the push. NUCLEARINT, it's going to be hard for him to contest that wave.
You can see, though, Treatz going for a reset himself, now working his way up towards this Rift Tower. Jezu will go down towards the bottom lane. Knowing that Erdote doesn't have flash means he's a little bit safer from a flash handshake, which could catch him out of position. And Cinkrof is able to steal away the blue here, but SK investing resources into making sure this Rift Tower hasn't been taken away from them.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. BDS used their tempo to actually just steal away the blue buff, which, in all honesty, SK is probably fine with. Ahri can be somewhat mana dependent in the early game, but the way in which Sertuss is playing the matchup doesn't seem like he's in too much of a struggle. Treatz now the first one here will give them the opportunity to start this one off, and Gilius is going to do just that. The wave is bouncing back. Can we very quickly look at that top wave, observers? I think that Jenax is setting up for that push, as the rest of BDS is looking to posture. Everyone is here for a brawl.
Level 6s on Erdote, that's big. Treatz doesn't have 6 himself. No depth charge, Sertuss. Perhaps caught out a little bit. Let's see if SK able to fight around this. Jenax looking for the damage onto Agresivoo towards the top side. There's the kind of instinct as well. Agresivoo with a great Gnar into the weapon, into the flash away, dodged away from the charm, and now down towards the bottom side of the fight. Rift Herald is secured by BDS. Treatz is trying to bodyguard it. Agresivoo won't be able to join the fight, and because of that, SK are able to keep BDS away from the Herald.
It's probably not a sensible play, but if I was NUCLEARINT, I would have used my ult onto the Nautilus to then E into Shroud, into then ulting over the wall, and looked really cool, and got on the eye, and would have swagged away. Well, I will admit that that's how the play would work out in my head. In reality, I would have been ulted by Treatz, I then would have been CC'd, I then would have been charmed, and I would have died.
But you would have got the Herald?
Well, probably not. Okay. But in an ideal world, you know, pro players are better than me. In any case, nothing really happened. No Herald ended up dying. First blood yet to be drawn. And we find ourselves with BDS securing themselves a very slight gold.
Yeah, and the good thing for BDS there is if SK get that Herald, they can even out this gold disadvantage that they're at right now. BDS have that strong lane down towards the bottom side. xMatty was able to push in another wave while Jezu and Treatz reset, so he was able to get a little bit more gold under his belt. And if SK had secured the Rift Herald, then they would have been able to get some of that back. But for now, BDS, yes, you don't get the Herald yourself, but you stop your opponent getting that influx of gold.
There are no objectives. No objectives on the map ready to contest for, which means that it's more farm and medic. It's farming time.
Okay, we're going with accents now? Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. Well, I always remember this accent because I'm from Somerset. It's the accent that Agresivoo uses from Ahri Bar.
That is true. Yeah. I will say, your accents always surprise me.
Why? Is it because I'm from Wales and you don't think I can do
That's just your normal voice. That's not an accent, man.
I'll never forget that one game where Quickshot was like, I want you to cast an next team fight but using a Welsh accent, and then there was a rumble in the game.
A rumble?
The rumble rolls out the red carpet. Yeah.
Oh, good stun from Jenax there. Give himself the wave flash from xMatty. Depth charge coming in as well. Jezu does have the killer instinct. They could look for the chase here. Erdote trying to turn it around, and the Berserk comes just in time. Bane possibility as well. xMatty takes him out, a double for BDS.
Beautiful play from the bot lane of BDS. xMatty was put under a lot of scrutiny last split. His bot lane 2v2 performance was not the level that many fans believed was right for LEC, but starting off the split strong, and a lot of credit needs to be given to Erdote there. He did everything right. The shielding from his E, the ultimate to buy him a little bit more time, as we see another engage in the top.
Cinkrof waiting in the wings, though. Sertuss on his way up as well. The Gnar back. Agresivoo going to try and dodge away. Gilius looking for the damage as well, but Gilius might be the first to fall. Agresivoo, one more auto is enough. Jenax jumps back in into the charm. The knock up, the CC. Cinkrof low. NUCLEARINT now joins. Orbit Deception not going to land, and NUCLEARINT will land. His shurikens, dives back in, hits another. Sertuss has no charm, and Treatz can't hit the dredge line, but NUCLEARINT just backs away in the end.
BDS getting kills across the board. They secure 2 in the top lane, 2 in the bot lane, and have ballooned this gold lead to about 2,500. This is the sort of aggression we like to see, and BDS responding largely to SK trying to be the proactive team. It's Gilius that tried to find that gank at the top side of the map. It was Treatz committing to that all-in onto xMatty, believing that he was isolated, and it ends up falling short all across the map. BDS with a great start to the game.
We'll have another look at this. As you say, they know Erdote's not there. They're like, okay, we can go in. But this hostile takeover is perfect.
Yeah, it just buys xMatty enough time to reposition, get the ultimate off, and then he gets the shield from Erdote's E as well to allow xMatty to secure these kills. Beautifully played. And then Agresivoo, notice that he has a massive health advantage here. He's been trading very well into Jenax, and then they just commit to the all-in. They see that Sertuss is on his way, but the problem is they don't have the damage to secure Agresivoo, and then Cinkrof positions in a way to deny Sertuss and Jenax from following up, and then they've committed so many resources to getting that one kill. It's bought enough time for NUCLEARINT to show up and trade some kills back. He commits his ultimate a little bit early, but he has to try and close that gap. It means that he doesn't have the damage to get the kill onto Sertuss, does get the flash though.
That's a lot of damage, the bullet time. Jezu forced down to 80 HP. And now, because of that Eclipse on xMatty, and because of Erdote's threat with the hostile takeover, they have to back away once again. xMatty with his second play of the game. Treatz and Gilius looking for something here. You can see Sertuss on his way as well. Spirit Rush just about to come off cooldown. Erdote does have the hostile takeover here. Gilius looking for the stun. No flash, remember, on xMatty. He dodges back and forth, but he's still locked up. Hostile takeover coming out. xMatty, though, locked up and shut down by SK. He'll come back for a second with a bailout, but in the end, it's Sertuss receiving the rewards.
Yeah, they just accepted their fate there. xMatty, he didn't have any summoner spells. He didn't have his ultimate up. Cinkrof was in a position to try and contest, but he chose to just, nope, I'm out. I'm not going to bother fighting this. I don't think that with Akali not really in a position to contest, we can win. So they just choose to give over the life of their AD carry. Can't really blame them in that situation. It will cost them a Drake, though. How will Cinkrof respond? He immediately moves up towards the top side of the map, potentially threatening a dive on the Jenax. Mainly, I think his goal was to look for a steal, maybe stealing away a blue buff, maybe some jungle camps. Nothing's really going to be available for him, so they're just going to give over the Drake.
And obviously, it's only second dragon of the game for SK. Mountain Soul will come for us in this matchup. 2 away for SK. If they can manage to secure the next 2 dragons, they can be in a pretty good spot. Of course, Mountain Soul against the burst damage that comes from an Akali is a boon to be sure. SK, even though they have been able to secure those 2 neutral objectives, it's still around 2,500 gold in the hole as BDS start to get mythic items across the board. Triforce for Agresivoo. You can see the Gore Drinker on Cinkrof. NUCLEARINT has the Hextech Rocket Belt and that Eclipse already complete on xMatty. It's got more lethality as well. Eclipse plus a Serrated Dirk is a lot of damage from this MF, but because he's down on the bottom side, SK put all of their eggs on the top side of the map and will be able to secure the second Rift Herald of the game.
Overall, BDS looking good in this early game. Props to them. I think that, you know, mixed expectations around how this team would show up with a lot of new players on the Rift, but both Agresivoo and Erdote looking very comfortable for the time being. But again, I want to remind people that BDS in the past actually had no issues getting early game leads. Sometimes their early games were not great, but it was a common trait where they would find themselves with big advantages and then they just couldn't close out. It was the mid game. And we already saw in game 1 how important the mid game has become with the current meta. So eyes will be on BDS to see how they navigate and kind of leverage this lead into a potential game win.
So how would we do that? If you're BDS in this position, you don't have a Herald, you need to fight over the next Drake probably, otherwise we'll see SK on Soul Point. You've taken bot tier 1, mid tier 1 and top tier 1 still survive. What are you looking to do to keep this gold lead ticking over?
Well, you're mainly trying to move your strong side of the map to where you can continue to gain advantages, which right now for them is that mid lane, which does make a lot of sense. The moment you open up that mid lane tower, it gives you access, or easy access rather, to the enemy jungle. SK, on the other hand, are investing towards the top side of the map. They recognize that if they can get Genx in a position where he can snowball in the isolated 1v1.
That was just such perfect waiting in the bush from SK. And he managed to kill off Agresivoo, who did everything right in that situation. He waited under his tower. He was like, okay, now I can step up. I think I had vision, but they just waited long enough for him to overstep.
NUCLEARINT could look. He doesn't have a huge amount of energy here. Oh, he baits it with the rocket belt. Jezu taking a lot of punishment, but you're right, Agresivoo does everything that he can there. The Herald doesn't get invested top. In fact, Gilius going to come back to the mid lane to try and offer assistance. He's going to take a lot of damage as a result of that. Erdote having a stellar Renata performance so far. Sertuss now being moved back into mid, and you can see that SK's map movements are kind of being forced to respond to a lot of what BDS is doing, whereas BDS is kind of chilling. They keep NUCLEARINT in bot lane, he keeps soaking up farm, he pushes out the wave, he then regroups with the team, and now BDS recognizing, oh, Ahri's here, let's rotate up towards the top side. Genx is forced to disengage. They have to be cautious of the potential dive, and they can use this duo to either invade or threaten the tower. Now SK bring their numbers back up. There's no AD carry here, which means that BDS will have the numbers advantage. What are they going to choose to do here though?
Genx is looking for some damage onto Cinkrof. No one taking the tower as of yet. Sertuss on the way as well, as you say. Jezu down towards that bottom side, just trying to get himself some farm. Still not got the Mythic on that Kai'Sa. Looking to get towards that Kraken Slayer as soon as possible. And perhaps it's just SK trying to buy some time for their AD carry to farm another wave. They know they're going to lose this top tier 1. Not in a strong enough position. You can see the 2,000 gold deficit for Jezu over xMatty. And if you can just recoup some of that for Jezu, it means that he can get towards that Mythic.
But PDS are doing very much what we talked about, which is leveraging their strong side of the map, which is this bot lane. xMatty now securing his second item of the game, going to give him even more mobility. And the great thing about Miss Fortune in mid lane is when you combine her strut with things like the Youmu's, then it's easier for her to rotate. Like, she has so much movement speed that it's very quick to make these rotations happen. SK not going to secure the tower off the back of that, and now xMatty moved back into mid. Now, what we're going to start seeing from BDS is they're going to be pushing mid and then moving into the enemy jungle, and that's why you see players like Gilius and Sertuss and everyone leveraging numbers to force that mid prio. Agresivoo is on this. Yeah, he's going to lose the crab as a result of that. I can't really blame him for it. NUCLEARINT's TP isn't up just yet, but SK is kind of forced in this situation where they know they're weaker. In the isolated 2 versus 2, if they just leave this Miss Fortune and Renata to do what they want, then they're just going to gain all this prio. So they have to leverage numbers to force them off the space. And again, you're seeing it here. Jezu, Genx, Treatz, they're all being brought here to force them off the wave. But it's still not quite enough because now BDS is doing the same.
But the BDS also saw Sertuss use his charm trying to catch out Erdote, so they know that that charm isn't up right now, but it does come back in time. Everforce used as well. Treatz looking for the hook. Crescent Guard pop though. So much damage coming out from the MF ultimate. Genx will be forced away. BDS turn their eyes towards the dragon.
Still up though for SK. Ahri's ultimate. The Gilius has his ultimate. Kai'Sa has the ultimate as well. So
Cinkrof, no ult, does have flash. They're just going in. Spirit Rush a possibility. There's the charm. TP behind. Genx, no Hex Gold but can get into this fight. They're looking for the dragon. Can Gilius steal it? He can! Third dragon of the game over to SK. Cinkrof low. Will be caught out. The bailout brings him back, but he will fall in the end. BDS still looking for the fight as Genx steps forward onto Agresivoo. NUCLEARINT could get onto Genx here. Treatz trying to escape down towards the bottom side, and Genx will be caught, and NUCLEARINT will get a triple in the fight.
Beautifully played by NUCLEARINT, but a good steal coming out from SK means that they will have a clear win condition. You can see how difficult it is to fight this BDS team. Their ability to disengage from the dive from the Renata ultimate and the Miss Fortune ultimate, rather, makes it so difficult. And then this Gnar creating this big zoning space. But just keep your eyes on NUCLEARINT here. You can see him hovering around the Drake right now. He's going to use his ultimate to get on the back of 3, and already SK is split. Gets the execution onto Gilius, finds Jezu completely isolated. Treatz can offer nothing to provide utility, and then Genx kind of gets left out to dry here. This is the value of this Akali pick in this situation when there's so much mobility on the side of SK. They also end up separating themselves and giving this Akali a lot of these 1v1 situations that she can just pick apart the team fight. 4-0-0 is now the scoreline for NUCLEARINT, and he is the primary carry for BDS.
He's in a really strong position, as you say. Already has that rocket belt, now has another alternator and a needlessly large rod. with the Sorcerer's Shoes, so he is very powerful right now. BDS, though, did lose the Dragon, and because of that, we are 3.5 minutes away from a Mountain Soul for SK if they can secure it. Good smite from Gilius to get that. Sertuss looking for something here. Charm onto Erdote. Oh, good sidestep there from Erdote. Obviously, he didn't see the charm coming, but something you always have to do when you're a squishy support is just step to the side each time you hit a control ward. Dragon started here. Jezu doesn't have TP. Remember, he TP'd to the last fight.
Jezu either. Wow, okay, this is a confident play. I like this from BDS, forcing SK. They leverage their leads.
Januk's on his way. Gilius looking for it. Heartbreaker could get him into the pit. He got the smite, of course.
Don't flip it, BDS.
They might be doing it. Cinkrof tanking at the back here. Agresivoo jumps out. No Mega Gnar for him. That's just timed out, and the Baron will be reset. You say don't flip it. SK and BDS agree.
So, the problem is, I wish I could remember. I can't remember if Agresivoo had the Mega Gnar and then it ran out, or it had ran out a little bit before.
I think he had it when they were doing ban, then it expired.
That's kind of what I feel like happened too, because I think that was what they were going to leverage to get the re-engager off. In order to get a turn, you can tell that the turn is what they wanted. Yeah. They wanted to try and force a fight or force something when SK was at a numbers disadvantage. Unfortunately, because Agresivoo lost his ultimate, there was no real way for them to get this. NUCLEARINT should be fine here. I think he recognizes there is no one on the map right now, and he's saying, you know, I don't think I'm safe. So he's just going to play it safe for the time being. But to go back to that Baron, I think that the fact that he lost the Mega Gnar is the main reason why BDS couldn't find a fight. Because you can see them just awkwardly standing around the Baron, and they have good disengage, but their actual engage not the strongest. You're very reliant on a Mega Gnar flank or Cinkrof kind of diving in, but then the follow-up isn't guaranteed to be there either, especially with the amount of mobility SK has. So you kind of need SK to come into you, which is why I like the Baron. I think it was a good call, and you correctly identified Jenax in the bot lane with no TP. Everything about it looks good for BDS. And it's great to see them leveraging their leads and actually trying to force fights when they know they're at the advantage. It's something that we didn't really get to see a lot from BDS last split.
Said we want to see more out of their mid game, and they're definitely showing it to us so far. Obviously, losing the Mountain Dragon is not in accordance with their plans, but when it's a 50-50 like that, you can't really blame anyone for that situation, apart from perhaps BDS just should have fought before the Dragon went down. Right now, though, 24 minutes in, they do have a 3,000 gold lead. 3 items complete on xMatty. Some good warding as well from Erdote. You see these deep wards that he's placing here. This is all because the Dragon's up in a minute's time. The more vision you can get into the enemy red side jungle when you know that Dragon's up, when you need to fight around it, the more options you have to find a pick before it happens. It also means that NUCLEARINT can just path down towards this bottom lane and push it out over and over again. He doesn't have TP right now. Agresivoo does, so Agresivoo will match top. NUCLEARINT will match bot lane, and then you can use the summoner spells and the tools at your disposal to maximize the amount of experience and gold you're getting on the map.
Correct.
Thanks. Welcome. I've learned a lot being next to you over the years.
Oh, sweet.
More from Kadril, but a lot from you.
I learned a lot from Kadril as well. Smart guy. He will be jumping on the caster desk next game for those Kadril enjoyers.
Yes, the Zoomer and the Boomer. Kadril and Quickshot.
It will be. Yes, yes, yes. Fun cast to listen to for sure. But let's have a look. We still have a game to get through here. 25 minutes on the clock. That Mountain Soul is about to spawn. Right now, it is BDS that have control over the river. They have the mid-pro. They have the bot wave pushed in. Jenax is resetting. I imagine he wants to buy something before the big fight. Will he? Oh, he's going to cancel it. That's a little concerning. Maybe SK is saying, we're happy to give this one up.
Yep.
And they want to wait a little bit longer, and it's not the worst plan ever. You can see that Sertuss is very close to that death cap. The second item now just being picked up for Gilius with the Dead Man's Plate. All right, so SK is just... I think this is a bit of an overcommitment, though. I really don't think they need to force this play. And Agresivoo, he's not going to fall for the bait. He realizes that his whole team is resetting, and so he's just going to play it safe, and that's sensible from him. So good stuff from both sides, really. BDS will buy themselves a little bit more time.
And SK will just try and wait a little bit longer, maybe look for Jezu getting towards 3 items. All that Rabadon's safe for Sertuss.
These backs.
I mean, what are they losing?
Well,
on
they're
the map?
wasting
They lose
a lot of
tempo.
time.
Yeah, they lose time.
Like, because the problem is they're not being seen. So BDS is playing around the fact that I have no idea where these two players are, and props to Agresivoo, he is respecting the lack of information. Oh god, he's...
Everfrost into the Hexagon Maiden. The charm misses. Agresivoo with a fancy feat on his debut game on the stage. He tries to dodge away from Sertuss and Janax. Agresivoo building up towards the Mega Gnar, but he just doesn't have the time. SK delayed and delayed and delayed, and in the end, they get their reward.
I really can't blame him for that because they waited for so long, and now NUCLEARINT, he can definitely go for this. Flash, not going to commit. He recognizes that there's 2 in the river, but
it's the second time he's done everything he needs to do and then just died.
At that point, I don't blame him for sitting there and thinking there's no way this Ahri is still in this bush, right? We saw Sertuss cancel his back like twice. I really can't blame him for that. The unfortunate thing here is for BDS, they weren't able to get anything off the back of it. If we look at the minimap, you can see that not really was invested in terms of vision towards the top side. There's actually still a lot of SK control wards that are still on the top side of the map, which is typically where you would expect that trade to happen. But because there was only 2 members just committed to making this play a reality, it's just really unfortunate for Agresivoo. And of course, SK do get themselves another tower, and the gold lead will shrink ever so slightly.
Yeah, down to about 1,000 between the 2 teams now, and the early advantages that we did see for BDS, shrinking just that a little bit. Shadow Flame complete on NUCLEARINT. He's going towards the Zhonya's next. Rabadon's still not quite there for Sertuss. I wonder if he just needs, I mean, it's got to be less than a couple of hundred gold now. Usually it's 1,250 for each of them. And
he has enough gold.
He's got enough gold, just hasn't backed yet, just catching the wave. Okay. So on his next back, he will be able to get that Rabadon's, and that's when we expect to see SK really looking for another fight. It's a lot of damage that comes out of the Ahri in these sorts of situations. Of course, NUCLEARINT has the outplay potential. You dodge that charm, you are at free reign to wail away on the SK backline. And BDS using this 3-man squad to try and gain some vision control off towards the top side right now. Agresivoo is in the top lane. NUCLEARINT actually here as well, so no one's going to be able to match Janax, who has got the TP, and that's the reason that BDS have started up this Baron. They know they can't really match without burning a TP down towards the bottom side. Gilius stepping forward by himself now, knows the Baron is happening. Jezu with a long-range Void Seeker, spots that the Baron is pretty healthy. Down to about 6,000 now. NUCLEARINT looking for a flank position. Janax now TPing in. NUCLEARINT trying to get in behind them, but Janax is there. 5,000 on the Baron xMatty low, down to about half. Erdote at about a 3rd HP. Bullet time used, but all of SK just holding BDS at arm's length. Keep it reset. You can keep it baited if you want it. Instead, they just let it completely reset. And SK, once again, force BDS away from the Baron, but BDS do get out Janax's TP.
So again, we're seeing this problem where BDS are recognizing that it's not easy for them to start a fight. They feel stronger, but that gold gap has evidently shrunk. Their window where they were objectively that much stronger has kind of dissipated, and now this is the second time they've tried to force a Baron, and SK just hasn't taken the bait. They haven't actually overcommitted to a play, giving BDS the opportunity to re-engage. We can see NUCLEARINT looking for that flank, waiting for the overcommitment to come through, and then it just never did. So SK displaying really good patience here and knowing our win condition is this Dragon Soul. We don't have to fight them for this Baron. It's really not a big deal. Just buy time, and if they then do commit to the Baron, then we'll flip it. We'll leverage our mobility to take the fight. But BDS, I don't think their plan is wrong. I just think that right now the execution with the draft that they have, it's a very difficult thing to execute. You really need SK to take the bait.
Yeah, you have to. They need to be going into, and of course they can wait because Baron does do a lot of damage as well, and you can just allow the Baron to continually chip away at BDS. You poke and you prod, and you see you can find an avenue to approach. But if you can't, it's cool. Everyone's down to half HP before the fight really begins, and by that point, BDS don't want to take the flip themselves. Dragon up. 15 seconds. SK trying to set up around it. NUCLEARINT on his way here as well. Third and complete. There's the route onto Cinkrof. Charm, an option for Sertuss. This vision across the wall will keep Gilius spotted as he puts the oracles down.
So what I will say about this fight now is Janax level 16, Sertuss level 16, level advantages across the board, items are fully completed, SK look way more confident when it comes to a fight this time round, and BDS still only level 15 on NUCLEARINT, Agresivoo is only level 14. Like, there's a big discrepancy here, and let's see if SK can actually pull out a big fight.
Dragon started, 5,000 on it, Soul. The option for SK. Charm goes in. Cinkrof diving forward as well. Gilius gets it. Mountain so secured for SK, but Gilius will be able to dash away as well. Manages to survive in the pit. Janax is caught by all of BDS. He will pay for the soul with his life. He tries to get away. You guys, you're too overeager. There's no way he's escaping from that. Erdote takes him down, shuts him out. But this soul secured for Gilius.
Well played by Gilius. That's the second smite steal he was able to secure today. He is on fire, on point with those smites. SK was looking a little dire based on the early game, but They've done a great job of bouncing back. Their farm has been good, their map play has been good, and sure, I've questioned their overcommitments to finding these picks, but the reality is BDS has not really punished them for it. And SK have only been able to find advantage after advantage, and there was a window there where BDS could maybe have converted into a Baron, but they didn't end up doing it. So let's have a look back at this rate. I believe the Dragon went down to about 100 HP, and then Gilius was able to secure it. So Jenax is just kind of off on the flank. His flank gets dissuaded, and then you can see drops to 164, then secured by Gilius. A very close one indeed. And the moment they get it, it's just disengaged. Just run away, get out of there. Jenax tries to buy a little bit of time. He gets super close to actually getting to safety on this one, but doesn't quite have the tools to stay alive. No flash available, and here, this was the window. I think this TP was actually really good because it takes away the mid wave, and then it also threatens the potential of BDS going towards that Baron. And now SK, once again, have control around this river, and they're the ones in the driver's seat.
And SK have done a really good job of keeping track of NUCLEARINT in the last few fights as well. He had that triple kill. Like, we thought he was going to be the Akali to watch. He was going to snowball from that position, but since then, hasn't picked up any more kills. Does have 3 items, has that Dark Seal as well. Is in a strong position if he can get onto Jezu, if he can get onto that backline, but so often he's kept at arm's length by the entirety of SK. Cinkrof here, stepping forward once again. Jenax pushing down towards the bottom side. He has TP, and will it be the 3rd time today we've seen this play? Will BDS pull the trigger on the Baron and say, okay, Jenax, you're going to TP in. Agresivoo trying to get to the towards level 16 himself.
Hang on.
BDS started, Treatz flashes, Erdote tries to flash away, but can't escape. Hostile takeover will only land on to 2. The knock onto xMatty on the backline. Bullet time coming in as well. xMatty low, Sertuss diving forward. Error falls over deception. xMatty still alive somehow. Jenax goes in. xMatty brought back with a bailout, but they need to kill Jezu quickly enough. They can't do it. Jezu will die afterwards. NUCLEARINT dies onto Jenax as he tries to get the damage down onto the SK top laner. Meanwhile, orbital deception going in once again. Agresivoo just surviving. It's a 2-for-1 so far in favor of BDS in a very messy fight.
Ooh. That was a big commitment there from SK. They really wanted to find themselves a fight. They know that they have the soul. And let's have a look back at exactly how this one plays out. Good engage onto Erdote means that you can get the ultimate down onto the Miss Fortune. And then look here, the immediate collapse and damage that comes out from Jenax chunks xMatty out, and then Jezu's going to ultimate onto the backline to try and finish off that kill. Oh, he's not even going to use his ultimate, he's just going to dive in, kind of isolates himself from the backline, and then Gilius fights himself face to face with NUCLEARINT, who's able to secure, well, Agresivoo alongside him, able to secure that kill. But it's kind of a scrappy fight, a little bit all over the place. Just a big skirmish that doesn't really result in anything significant aside from BDS getting a shutdown. You know, Jezu actually had a shutdown, even though he was 0-2.
And 50 CS down.
Yeah, a bit of gold went into their back pockets, which means that that gold lead will creep ever so slightly higher. But a lot of items are being completed right now.
I mean, importantly as well for BDS, flashes burn on Jezu. Gilius doesn't have flash either, Jenax doesn't have flash, so if NUCLEARINT can get onto one of them, can shut them down. As you say, the items coming in across the board. Force of Nature, Frozen Heart, and Gore Drinker complete on Cinkrof. He's just a tank. Wit's End for Agresivoo will help him out a little bit against the magic damage from Jezu and Sertuss. Of course, Kai'Sa predominantly physical, but does do a little bit of magic damage with those plasma stacks. xMatty sitting at 4 items and a stopwatch. Just going to help him out a little bit if he's ever dived on by Sertuss. The stopwatch gives you that bit more flexibility in your positioning, although without flash and heal, you wonder if you just come out of the frozen moment to face your death. It depends if the rest of BDS can collapse around him to keep him alive.
Elder spawning in about a minute 40. Baron is the primary objective for now. SK relatively fast clear. Viego, Kai'Sa do a lot of damage, along with the true damage that Jenax will be able to offer on the Camille. BDS should be aware that something is going on, but it's a little bit suspicious that the jungler is not in the pit. Cinkrof with the engage.
Yeah, SK trying not to be suspicious here, but you can see BDS
oh wow, this is
forward.
So fast.
It's already down to 3,000. Cinkrof puts a ward in, and immediately it's gone. Gilius smites it. SK able to sneak it away from BDS underneath their noses.
Well played. That was insanely fast. I was not expecting it to go as quickly as it did, but Jenax alongside Jezu were able to melt through that one, and they've got a whole minute before the Elder Dragon spawns. Sure, BDS may be able to get a tower back, but SK, they're not going to be too upset about that. They'll be able to make their way back out onto the map, and now BDS are setting up the trap.
Gilius, Oracles, smart play. Oracles into control ward, in the invisibility as well, because he was in his harrowed path, meant that they couldn't spot him before he put the control ward down.
Oh, well played. Good bounce back from SK. Of course, it wasn't the most dramatic comeback in all of League of Legends history, but it was calm, controlled, They weren't really punished for the plays that they did make on the sides. BDS now kind of desperate for an engage here.
And Genax is in top lane without TP. If BDS can find something here, it's definitely at most a 4v5. Bullet time comes out, Jezu pops the blast cone, but with 20 seconds on the Drake, it looks like Genax just going to commit to split pushing here. I wonder how long's on his teleport time at 26 seconds. So there's a tiniest of windows, like one of those bathroom ones that's really, really small, where BDS could start up this Elder Drake without Genax being able to respond. Agresivoo, though, has gone back. Sertuss here. Charm goes out, stops the charge in from Cinkrof. Will be shielded a little bit, and now BDS have lost their opportunity to defenestrate SK. That window has closed, and SK now have control towards this bot side river.
Yes, cannot fit through the window. Here we are, SK Sertuss with the engage. Charm
away. Charm goes out, as you say. Lots of damage on the back line. Crescent Guard coming out as well as Sertuss caught in the midst of NUCLEARINT. Bailout being used, hostile takeover as well. Treatz pops the stopwatch. Gilius not in the best position since he's in the back of the fight, back of the pit as well. Treatz will fall. Oh, great snipe! Great snipe onto xMatty. That's a lot of damage, a lot of DPS falling off from BDS. Jezu and Gilius trying to do something here. They still have the Baron. NUCLEARINT stepping in. The resets will come out from BDS. Cinkrof perhaps looking for something as he popped the Squire's Bloom, but instead, no one will take the Elder. It's just kill for kill trade.
Jezu with a really big save there. Had Matty been alive, that Elder likely would have gone down. Of course, Gilius, he was primed and ready for the steal. But no Elder Dragon will be started. Not much value going to be gained off of this Baron. Of course, we did see Genax split pushing in the top lane, trying to be a nuisance for Agresivoo, as he was able to secure the tier 2 tower. Now NUCLEARINT is going to be the one to respond to the side lane, but SK immediately back out onto the map. They have the bot wave pushed in. They're pushing out mid. They are removing all of the vision. Sertuss should have TP.
Deep. That is deep, and Treatz will know he's there when he comes around the corner. Counter TP, use NUCLEARINT. Depth charge, a possibility. Killer instinct in NUCLEARINT. You got to pull something miraculous here. The TP too deep. SK willing just to lap him up. And now they will turn their eyes towards the Elder. BDS. No real way to steal this unless Cinkrof can like flash in, but the Elder will be secured for SK and NUCLEARINT. He lived up to his name.
That caught NUCLEARINT by surprise. He was not expecting so many SK members to be in that area, and the way in which Jezu collapsed so quickly with his ultimate was able to shut down NUCLEARINT. He did have flash. I'm surprised they didn't invest more to try and get out of that situation, but he accepted his fate, lost his life. And now the Elder Dragon is something that BDS will have to contend with. Their goal will be to avoid fighting as much as possible while trying to save as much of their base as they can.
It's one of those TPs that, if it works, looks incredible. But when Treatz is just there immediately to CC you, and then the Killer Instinct follow-up makes it basically impossible for that Akali to do anything in that situation. BDS now very much on the back foot. That sequence of events has led to SK being 3,000 gold ahead, and Elder Dragon to the good. We're a minute and a half. xMatty stepping forward here. Depth charge used onto Erdote. There's nowhere for him to go. The bailout won't save you for long as SK get another kill. And with 30 seconds before we hit that 40-minute mark and 30 seconds on Erdote, SK can just push in here. Still a minute and a half on this Elder Drake. BDS have to just give up everything. No real way for them to fight. Spirit Rush off cooldown. Sertuss could look for something. Flash Charm always a possibility as well, but looks like SK know they've already done a lot of damage to this top tier, tier 3. They'll take that as well. Second inhibitor of the game for them as they lock it out. NUCLEARINT trying to step forward, but what do you do into an Elder Drake? There's still a minute left on it. X-Flash from Treatz, thinking perhaps NUCLEARINT would step a little bit too far. Sertuss, Cinkrof goes in, the charm into the Everfrost, into the Killer Instinct, but the Crescent Guard enough. Gilius splashing forward, counter flash. Bullet time out from xMatty, but now he's not in the best of shapes as Genax could look for the Hex Gold Ultimatum.
Bit of an overinvestment here from SK. They need to be careful.
They still have the Elder, though. Agresivoo could look for Gnar into the wall. Instead, BDS just able to force SK to burn a few summoners.
Okay, so yeah, quite a deep commitment there from Gilius and Genax. Both flashes were used. A little unnecessary, but they saw that if they could have won that fight, they potentially could have ended the game. But for now, they will just back off. A lot of damage was done to the BDS base. They find themselves in shambles right now, as there are 0 pages in the book of NUCLEARINT. It was a good start. I mean, they still have the kill lead, but BDS very quickly lost control. A few of these fights just did not go in their favor, and they recognized the difficulty of their composition in terms of execution. If SK is diving onto you, yeah, your comp is a treat. It works great, but if they never come in, you have no way of starting the fight yourself. And huge props to Gilius. He needs to be given a lot of credit this game. Those steals that he got with the Dragon have been absolutely massive. And really, they put SK in this position to secure their first win of the split. The Baron is respawning. And SK will be the ones to start it off. Treatz is spotted out here, and he knows he's spotted. Does he know that?
I mean, all of SK have been spotted. They know that Genex and Jezu are here as well. Treatz already down. BDS could look for a bit more of an engaged charm going out. Crescent Guard available for Cinkrof, but very tanky with the Force of Nature, Frozen Heart. And Treatz just a little bit overstepping.
Well, he thought that he was in Fog of War there. He didn't realize that he was stood right next to a ward. Of course, that is only the support, but BDS have a numbers advantage. I feel like they really need to try and leverage this. They still have all of their ultimates available.
Who do you get onto, though? The mobility from SK is pretty disgusting for BDS. They're great at disengaging, but how do you engage when you're looking at a Spirit Rush, you're looking at Jezu, who can just flash away?
I think that the biggest concern I would have if I'm BDS is if we try and force Baron, all they have to do is stall us while Genex ends the game.
Yep.
Which I do understand, but you're running out of windows is kind of my concern for BDS right now. And if you don't do something within these windows that you have, then SK is just going to win.
Yep.
So it was a good pick. Unfortunately, they can't convert it into much else. And now SK, they know they have a pushing top. They also have a pushing mid. That's a stacked wave on bot because Genex has just caught that wave. And now it's just a matter of time before SK start the Baron off. They're literally just waiting for the waves to create a point of pressure. And then BDS is going to be forced to make a choice.
Sertuss with the charm once again onto Cinkrof. Crescent Guard will be used. Bullet time coming out as well. Gilius has to pop the Heartbreaker to get away. NUCLEARINT looking for a flank position here as he dives in, but it's only onto Treatz. Hostile takeover coming in as well, and Treatz is very low. NUCLEARINT dived on by Genex. Meanwhile, the GA popped on xMatty. NUCLEARINT trying to do what he can, but Treatz continues to land the hooks. xMatty comes back though. Treatz down, 2 down. Genex, Sertuss, and Jezu have to try and do everything in this fight. The GA still available for Jezu. The charm wide. Cinkrof survives all but a section though. Will lock him out. Genex, more Death's Dance and Divine Sundra means he is nigh unkillable as SK find 2 in the fight.
The GA will be popped for Jezu, but it ends up being a 2 for 2. I imagine this will be a third as Genex locks down Erdote. But the base again is in shambles. Only 2 members are left alive. They're hitting the base button because they both have TP. SK looking to end the game.
I mean, what wave clear do you really have? Agresivoo has some, NUCLEARINT has some, but the 5-point strike doesn't really clear out these super minions too quickly. Agresivoo going to try and build up towards that Mega Gnar. Does have the Gnar ultimate as well, but look at the damage onto the tower. Genex basically feasting on them. Is the Cho'Gath ultimate worth the true damage? The Gnar back brings Genex underneath the tower. NUCLEARINT looking for the damage as they do manage to kill off Jezu. NUCLEARINT has to do it all here though. The GA popped on Agresivoo. Genex looking for the tower itself. Precision protocol enough, and SK will ignore the BDS players and instead take down the base.
It was close at the end there. I really thought that NUCLEARINT and Agresivoo could do it. But SK, they played the fights better. Gilius with a number of great steals will bring SK to their first victory. The early game, a little shaky.
Yep.
One of the criticisms that they, of course, did have from last split, but another team that benefits from one of the big patch changes when it's a lot more about the mid to late game. When you get to focus on team fighting, this is one of the strengths of this team. And right now they're leveraging it. So huge props to SK getting a big win against a team that you are expecting to compete against, especially for those playoff spots.
There we are, fist bumps from SK as they walk over to the BDS players. Obviously, some signs of life from BDS in terms of how their roster's coming together. The early game very strong. Agresivoo looked very respectful in the way that he played weak side of the map. Erdote had some good plays as well on the Renata. And if they continue to develop, we'll see some good things from this BDS lineup. But for SK, a huge first win. With the split only being 18 games long, it is important to emphasize just how big these games can be. You win against someone who could be in the playoffs race with you early on. You get a few wins under your belt. You're looking at 6th place instead of 7th. You're looking at 5th place instead of 6th.
Exactly.
It can put you in a very strong position come the end of this 8-week season.
Sure. And yeah, I think that you can like highlight a number of different situations where each of the players from SK really stood out, but I feel like Sertuss played well in the team fights. Genex creating a lot of pressure throughout the side lanes. But really huge props again to Gilius. Those steals were so important in being able to secure themselves things like the Soul, and it made their team fighting that much stronger. So big win for SK. And yeah, well, still 2 more games to go this weekend. We'll see how far they can go.
One game sample size isn't the biggest, but your key player of the game for this game at LEC on Twitter is where you can vote. Genax, Sertuss, and Jezu are your options.
Gilius?
Yeah, I'm surprised Gilius isn't there. I think he had a strong performance, but so did Sertuss, so did Jezu. Your Sertuss's positioning with the charms, it was constantly him finding a charm onto Cinkrof that allowed them to set up the fights later on in the game.
Sure.
Genax had a good Camille performance as well, constantly pressing in the side.
Jezu landed that W, which onto MF, which
probably saved them the Elder,
yeah, probably saved, for sure. In any case, yeah, that will be our second game of the day. We still have 3 games left to go, and a reminder, this is Super Week, so we will have games today, tomorrow, and on Sunday.
Every week of the LEC is a Super Week. 5
full days of action-packed League of Legends. Woo! We're just setting up for an interview on stage. This is going to be it from me and Medic for the day. We're going to be joined by Quickshot and Cajol for the next 3 games. It's going to be some bangers. Thank you very much, crowd. And
we'll see you all tomorrow. Obviously, you guys can stay around. We won't be here, but you guys can stay here. Keep watching League of Legends. We're going to hand it over to Laure, who's standing by with Treatz.
Thank you, Medic. Thank you, Vedi. Treatz, thank you so much for joining me. After this game, what a game it was to open the summer season. Tell me about it and what made it difficult for you guys.
I mean, the first game is always the nerve-wracking game, right? You just kind of play to not lose, and I think they did the same. So it was a kind of slow game, but we knew that with our soul, we just kind of have to not int the fights. I mean, we did our best to try to int them, but we managed to win in the end anyways. But it's a good warm-up game, and I'm happy we won.
How difficult is it to come back, though, after not playing for several months? Even though you know the stage, you know the teams, but what makes it difficult?
I think it's just... I mean, stage always hits different, right? I think even if you can scrim like 50 games per week, right, the stage is always something special. So I think just getting warmed up to it and getting used to it will be a big thing for all the teams. And I think, especially with all the rookies that haven't even played in front of a crowd, right? I think it will be a big adaptation for everyone.
I was about to say stage, but with these amazing people cheering for you guys now. So what kind of a difference does it make for you, but also the rookies, as you mentioned?
I mean, I think, at least for me, when I'm in the game, I kind of zone into the game and don't really think about what's happening around me. But I think for rookies, it's always something special the first time. You can hear the crowd in the background, so shout out to you guys. But it's really nice. It's really nice.
Yeah, amazing to have people back. Again, a few words on the meta, because we saw what happens in the LCK. LPL can be much different. We're seeing a glimpse of what the meta is going to be in the LEC, but from pace-wise, I mean, pace of the game-wise, what do you think about what we're experiencing right now with the changes that Riot implemented?
I mean, I think LCK is always playing really slow. I think we tried to have a really aggressive comp, but we didn't really fight a lot, especially after we died on bot. I think it was kind of hard to keep the pace going forward, so we just tried to scale it out as well. But I think in general, games will be a bit slower. Everyone is tankier, so it makes sense, right? But I think we'll still have some banger games for sure. Yeah, hopefully.
And we see how it evolves also with a new patch dropping in a couple weeks. Last question about you and SK also, because you're one of the few teams who didn't make changes in the roster this summer. What kind of impact do you think it's going to have, and what kind of advantage do you think you're going to lay from this?
I mean, I like not changing rosters, personally. I like to have synergy and build up synergy right throughout time, so I think maybe not the start will have a great impact, but I think that if you have one entire year with the same team, right, I think it's a big difference. So I personally like it, and I think every team that has made changes will struggle in the start, so it's good for us.
The team was starting to get better by the end of spring. Do you see changes being in motion here for SK and the team actually getting better and better?
I mean, it's really early to say, right?
It is.
We only played one game, but I mean, I think we're all confident playing with each other. We just need some more practice and some more stage time.
All right, and you will have plenty of those, obviously, in Summer Treatz. Thank you so much for the interview. And we're going to take a quick break now, and we will come back in a few minutes for Excel versus Misfits. Stay tuned.